What would happen if the answer to a prayer came in such an unexpected, unusual way that even the most devout were left speechless? Today, we travel to a humble village in the heart of Africa, where an extraordinary event not only touched a family's life but also generated a wave of questions and a kind of divine confusion that ultimately teaches us much about the mysterious ways of heaven. If you know someone who needs a prayer, a helping hand, write their name and that of their relatives in the comments right now. We will add them to our main rosary prayer, together seeking light for those who need it most. In the heart of a vast African plain, nestled among ancient baobab trees and the intense glow of the setting sun, lay the small village of Kambi. It was a place where life was shaped by the seasons, the fertile land, and the strength of community, and faith was the pillar that sustained hope in times of greatest adversity. In a simple mud house with a thatched roof that barely protected from the scorching heat and the rare torrential rains, Amina's family lived. Amina was a woman of unshakable faith, whose eyes held both the serenity of resignation and the glow of stubborn hope, a flame she refused to let go, especially since her youngest son, little Jabari, suffered from a mysterious illness that sapped his strength and made his days a burden for the entire family, worrying everyone. The entire village felt Amina's affliction, whose silent prayers and the rosary in her rough hands were a constant sight at the small door of her home, an offering of her heart to God and Our Lady, asking for a miracle that local medicine seemed incapable of granting. She prayed day and night, asking for a chance for her son to have a full and happy life, clinging to what she believed most strongly, in divine strength, for faith was the only thing she had to sustain him. Jabari's condition had dragged on for months, draining the joy not only from the boy but from the entire family. Sleepless nights were common for Amina, who watched over her son's restless sleep, feeling his small body burn with fever, his shallow breathing echoing in the stillness of the house. She had traveled long distances, with hope clinging to threads, to consult healers and shamans from neighboring villages, trying every traditional medicine known, but nothing seemed to provide lasting relief from Jabari's suffering. Human hope had nearly dried up, leaving a void, but Amina's faith, though tested, never wavered. It was in praying the rosary, in the repetition of the Hail Marys, and in contemplating the mysteries that she found refuge and renewed her courage, placing every ounce of her anguish at the feet of Our Lady, certain that if a solution existed, it would come from heaven, at the time and in the form God chose, even if she could not understand it, trusting completely in His power and will. One afternoon, as Amina knelt before a small statue of Our Lady, a gift from her grandmother, the house began to emit a faint, unusual glow, a kind of iridescent shimmer unnatural to clay or straw. It began as something barely perceptible, a diffuse light coming from the walls and roof, something that seemed to dance gently as the afternoon wore on and the sunlight began to fade, blending with the shadows of the late afternoon. No one in the village had ever seen anything like it. The nearest neighbors noticed and whispered, but they didn't dare approach. It was a curious sight, beautiful in its strangeness, but also charged with an enigmatic silence, a pause in the noisy, hectic routine of the village. Only Jabari, who was visibly weakened and lying in his bed, seemed to sense a different energy. His gaze, previously dulled by illness, suddenly fixed on the shimmering walls of the house, and a faint smile played on his lips, a reaction that gave Amina a strange mixture of fright and a glimmer of hope. As the days turned into nights, and the sun ebbed and flowed across the Kambi sky, the shimmering of Amina's walls and roof intensified, but what truly astonished everyone was what happened next. Small, delicate plants began to sprout from the dry clay and straw. These were plants that were not typical of the region's arid flora, with vibrantly colored flowers and a sweet, unfamiliar scent that filled the air with a gentle, healing fragrance, spreading throughout the village. Amina's house, previously brown and dusty, began to transform into a vertical garden of singular, inexplicable beauty. The flowers were a shade of sky blue and pure white, the same colors as the cloak of Our Lady, whom Amina so revered. This manifestation was so strange and unexpected that the villagers were immediately torn between admiration and profound confusion. How could the arid clay wall, which had supported a house for years, suddenly sprout into a vibrant, lush garden? This phenomenon defied every law of nature they knew and caused a wave of astonishment wherever the house was seen. The entire village gradually gathered around Amina's house. Some looked on with wide-eyed faith and wonder, like old Mzee, the village elder, who mumbled prayers and said it was a sign of better times. Others, like the skeptical Kofi, who had an unwavering practical sense, scratched their heads, trying to find a logical explanation for the inexplicable. "It's impossible," he repeated. "There's not enough water here for these plants to thrive, much less in clay walls." A murmur grew among the neighbors, a mixture of astonishment and bewilderment. While Amina's faith grew stronger with the miraculous beauty surrounding her home, the rest of the village struggled to reconcile the vision with their understanding of the world. Some feared it was a sign of witchcraft, an evil manifestation, as it was something completely new to everyone, while others insisted it was the hand of God, albeit with an unusual style, shattering paradigms of expected miracles and sparking incessant debate about its true meaning. The beauty was undeniable, but the form was the true source of the divine confusion. While debate and perplexity spread throughout the village, the miracle of the garden house began to have a profound and undeniable impact on Jabari's health. As the flowers bloomed and the fragrance filled the air, the boy's fever subsided. His appetite returned, and a new glow, no longer that of fever, but of life, returned to his eyes. Within days, Jabari, once languishing, was laughing, playing, exploring the new, fragrant walls of her home with childlike curiosity, as if the vibrant plants were a maternal embrace. What was initially a puzzle to the village became irrefutable proof of divine love and intercession. The initial confusion over the form of the miracle began to give way to a deep, silent acceptance, because the effect was visible, palpable, and impossible to deny. It wasn't a grand miracle like parting the sea, but it was as real as a mother's love and a child's healing. The Virgin Mary's love was real. From that day on, Amina's house became a place of pilgrimage in the village. People from Cambi and neighboring villages came to touch the flower-covered walls, to inhale the fragrance, and many, even those who had previously doubted, claimed to feel a renewed peace and energy as they approached that home that seemed to pulse with spiritual life. The original confusion dissolved in the certainty that God's ways are mysterious, and that His providence manifests itself in ways that human logic often cannot immediately comprehend. That miracle, far from being an isolated event, united the community, strengthened faith, and taught everyone a valuable lesson: that the divine reveals itself not only in the spectacular, but often in the simple and unexpected, bringing healing and hope in ways that may confuse our minds but warm our hearts, showing us that Our Lady is always attentive to our most sincere prayers and supplications, ready to intercede for her beloved children. Like Amina, we all face our own challenges, our mysterious illnesses of the soul that seem insoluble, be they discouragement, unforgiveness, lack of peace, or disbelief in the faith that nourishes us. The story of the house in Africa reminds us that, in the midst of our daily lives, we are called to cultivate our faith with constant prayer, as Amina did with her rosary, to forgive, to find peace in our hearts, and to preach the good news with the example of our lives. She teaches us that, even when the divine answer doesn't present itself as we expected, It is in our persistence in prayer and openness to the extraordinary that we find true conversion, increased faith, and the healing we so desperately need. Let's not let the confusion of the world or the limitations of our vision prevent us from seeing the miracles happening right in front of us. Let's pray together with this same faith. Write now in the comments the names of people and family members who need prayer. And with our main prayer of the Rosary, we will seek intercession for all of them. This story makes us reflect on the unexpected paths of faith and divine wisdom, doesn't it? Share with us in the comments which part of this narrative touched your heart the most and what it taught you about miracles and how God works in our lives. Your opinion is very important to us. If this story brought you any light or comfort, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to continue following stories that inspire faith and transform hearts. May Our Lady bless you all.